Health, Sheikh Dr. Basil Sabah, announced Wednesday the recovery of 6 cases from COVID-19, raising the country's total recoveries to 111. The minister said lab tests and analysis had shown the recovery of the patients. He added that already treated cases will be admitted to a rehabilitation ward before being discharged from hospital. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was battling the coronavirus in intensive care unit, raising deep concerns about his health as the country recorded its highest daily death toll. In an update Tuesday evening, the Prime Minister's spokesman said his condition is stable and he remains in intensive care for close monitoring. He earlier said the 55-year-old Conservative leader was receiving standard oxygen treatment and breathing without any other assistance and had not required a ventour. Premier Johnson is the most high-profile government leader to become infected with COVID-19, a disease caused by the virus, and messages of support flooded in from across Britain and the world. He was admitted to intensive care on Monday evening after spending Sunday night in hospital following concerns he still had a cough and high temperature 10 days after being diagnosed with COVID-19. The president of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Hassan Rouhani, said Wednesday the International Monetary Fund would be guilty of discriminatory behavior unless it provides $5 billion in emergency funding to help Tehran, an IMF member, fight the coronavirus outbreak. Iran's central bank chief wrote last month to the IMF to request $5 billion from the fund's Rapid Financing Initiative, an emergency program that aids countries faced with sudden shocks such as natural disasters. An IMF official has said the fund is in dialogue with Iranian authorities over the request for financial aid, with talks aimed at understanding Iran's needs and what is required for Iran's demand to be processed. The escalating coronavirus outbreak in Iran, the worst affected country in the Middle East, has killed 3,872 people and infected 62,589. The number of new coronavirus infections in Germany rose the most in the last 3 days, bringing the total to 107,663 in one of Europe's worst hit nations. This compares with a gain of 3,252 a day earlier. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, more than 2 weeks after the government ordered its citizens to adhere to strict limits on public life, infections grew by 4,288 on Wednesday. Germany registered 206 new deaths from the virus, compared with 226 the day before. That brings the total number of fatalities to 2,016. The new coronavirus is killing African Americans at a higher rate than the U.S. population at large, according to preliminary numbers from Louisiana, Michigan, and Illinois that officials said point to disparities in health and healthcare access. The figures were reported by state and city leaders at briefings on the coronavirus, including Louisiana Governor John Edwards, who said more than 70% of the 512 people killed by the coronavirus in Louisiana as of Monday were black, a much larger percentage than the state's population that black people represent, about 33%. Michigan officials also said that the coronavirus took a disproportionate toll on African Americans, with 40% of the reported deaths in the state, whose population is 14% African American. As of Tuesday, confirmed cases in Michigan were 18,970, with 845 deaths. Hundreds of people held under mandatory quarantine in Kenya after returning from abroad are up in arms after the government extended their confinement for another 14 days. Around 2,000 people were placed in forced quarantine as they arrived in the country from March 22nd until international flights were banned 3 days later. Mixed with those who had been in contact with patients who tested positive, the quarantined Kenyans and foreigners make up some 80% of the country's coronavirus patients. As of Monday, the country had recorded 172 cases and 6 deaths. Thousands of relieved citizens streamed out of China's Wuhan on Wednesday after authorities lifted months of lockdown at the coronavirus epicenter, offering some hope to the world despite record deaths in Europe and the United States. China has come under fire for its handling of the coronavirus crisis that originated there late last year. From Wuhan, the coronavirus spread rapidly to infect nearly every country on Earth, killing more than 80,000, battering the global economy and forcing around half of humanity into some form of lockdown. While China celebrated its first day without coronavirus deaths on Tuesday, the relentless disease choked up fresh milestones in hard-hit areas of Europe and the US. Turkmenistan gathered thousands of citizens for mass exercise events to mark World Health Day, state media said, ignoring the global trend for social distancing to fight the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The Central Asian country, along with North Korea, is one of the handful of territories which claim they have no cases of the virus, which is sweeping across the globe. A state television broadcast showed hundreds of people wearing identical colored tracksuits cycling in close formation on a cold, damp day in the capital, Ashgabat. State media said 7,000 citizens participated in cycling events across the country to celebrate the date, which has been marked internationally since 1950. A powerful tropical cyclone battered the South Pacific island nation of Fiji on Wednesday, destroying buildings and causing injuries in Suva, the capital, pressuring a population already bracing of the coronavirus outbreak. Cyclone Harold, its strength ranked in the highest category of 5, passed over Fiji's south at about midday, leveling homes and snapping communications links in the archipelago, which has adopted curbs on movement to rein in the virus. The director of the National Disaster Management Office said there were no immediate reports of deaths, but about 10 houses in Suva were reported destroyed. European Union finance ministers failed to agree in all-night talks on more support for the coronavirus-hit economies, and their chairman said on Wednesday morning he was suspending the discussions until Thursday. Diplomatic sources and officials said a feud between Italy and the Netherlands over what conditions should be attached to Eurozone credit for governments fighting the pandemic was blocking progress on €500 billion worth of aid. The finance ministers, who started talks on Tuesday that lasted all night with numerous breaks to allow for bilateral negotiations, are trying to agree a package of measures to help governments, companies, and individuals. Lufthansa on Wednesday said it will ground its Germanwings low-cost airlines as part of a broader overhaul which includes cutting flight capacity across the group. It said Lufthansa will cut capacity at its hubs in Frankfurt and Munich, including reducing the number of aircraft in service for Lufthansa and Eurowings. The company said the Germanwings flight operations will be discontinued. All options resulting from this are to be discussed with the respective unions. Global Airlines warned Tuesday that 25 million jobs across the world could be at risk from the coronavirus travel downturn, and the industry's representative body International Air Transport Association said airline finances were so fragile they could not afford to refund customers. Zoom Video Communications Incorporation was accused by a shareholder of hiding flaws in its video conferencing app, part of a growing backlash against security loopholes that were laid bare after an explosion in worldwide usage. In a complaint filed Wednesday in San Francisco Federal Court, the company and its top officers were accused of concealing the truth about shortcomings in the app's software encryption, including its alleged vulnerability to hackers, as well as the unauthorized disclosure of personal information to third parties, including Facebook Incorporation. The investor, who filed the suit as a class action, claims a series of public revelations about the app's deficiencies starting last year have dented Zoom's stock price, though the shares are still up 67% this year, as investors bet that the teleconferencing company would be one of the rare winners from the coronavirus pandemic.